Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Blanche, last May, my staff at Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee released a report documenting that the inspectors general that President Trump fired had together, collectively, had uncovered billions of dollars in fraud, waste, and abuse. We oversee IGs and believe that they're incredibly important to hold government accountable, which needs to be done so that American people have trust and confidence in the work that we do here. In fact, it was quite, I thought, striking. The study showed that for every dollar that we spend on IGs, it's been estimated the return on that investment is roughly 18 times what we put into the IGs. But despite the administration's purported focus on fraud, your department, FY27 request, would actually cut these IGs, their budget, by nearly a third. These are folks that have an 18-to-1 return on investment. Prior to being in public service, I spent 20 plus years in the investment business. If I told investors, this is an investment I'd like you to make and you're gonna have an 18-to-1 return, they would jump out of their chair in excitement and say, absolutely, how much money can I put in to get an 18-to-1 return? So while the request, and this happens while you're requesting an increase for your overall agency through the reconciliation, so you're gonna be gaining additional funding, which I would argue requires oversight as you get additional funding. That happens every government agency, not just yours. And to have a massive cut of IGs with an 18-to-1 ROI, why was that decision made, and how do you intend to have robust oversight of the department when you're cutting the folks who are responsible for that and have a brilliant track record of doing that with every administration, Democratic or Republican, before you?
So I agree the IGs are extraordinarily important. The budget that was proposed, it was developed consulting with the IGs, and so this is a budget that OMB and DOJ worked with the IG's office to come up with, and this was an agreed upon budget from them. So while not, just because you're not giving more money and you're even taking away money, doesn't mean the conclusion you reach is accurate, which is that it's going to result in less work or less return on our investment. I just don't think that's true.
Well, that makes no sense, of course. If you have 1/3 fewer folks working, granted, maybe they're incredibly more productive, but it's really clear with an 18-to-1 return, investing as your budget is growing, you're going to have that kind of return, and it makes no sense to do that. Why? There's no financial sense to do it. So is there another reason you just don't want IGs on the job?
As I just said, the IGs themselves work with OMB and DOJ to develop this budget in a way that made them feel that they could get their job done.
So it wasn't like, we've got a budget for it, you can either take this or you're going to get a lot less.
I wasn't part of the conversation, but I assure you it was
I can't imagine IGs are going to say, okay, we want fewer of us even though we have an 18-to-1 return, and we're the guardian to make sure that people can trust what happens in federal government. And it makes no sense to me to have that cut. And I think it speaks volumes of what this administration is really focused on, and it's not about reducing waste, fraud, and abuse. You don't do that by decimating the IG Corps. You certainly saw him fire a number of IGs earlier and have serious concerns. Mr. Blanche, the President also signed an executive order on March 31 directing the Department of Justice, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Postal Service to take a series of actions related to federal elections, including the creation of a federal citizenship list and new rules on mail ballot distribution. That order is rightly being challenged in federal court, as these are state functions. But recent reporting indicated that the implementation of that order is being coordinated through the White House meetings involving senior Department of Justice leadership, including Assistant Attorney General Harmet Dillon. So my question for you, sir, is what is the department's role in implementing the March 31st executive order?
Well, I want to be careful because it is under litigation, but it's as you just described. It's working with other agencies within the administration to implement the goals, which I think are appropriate goals, to make sure that we have free and fair elections, to make sure that those are implemented, whether it's DOJ that needs to implement them or some other federal agency.
Well, you have other agencies. The same reporting identified the official leading the Department of Homeland Security's work, as you said, you're all working together on this, who now serves as the DHS Deputy Assistant Secretary for Election Integrity. Her name is Heather Honey, who is in that position. Ms. Honey's prior claims were central to the effect to challenge the 2020 election results. Claims, as you know, have been widely disproven. It's not true, none of this stuff. She's a key player there. So my question for you, sir, is the department taking policy direction either formally or informally? You say they are from your previous answer, but from an official whose prior work was built on disproven claims about a prior federal election?
Our policy direction comes from President Trump and his leadership team. So I know the person you're speaking about. She's part of DHS and certainly in meetings that we have about election integrity. But as far as whether myself or Harmeet Dillon take policy directions, we take them from the president.
So, interesting. A person who was part of these widely disproven false allegations, and a president who, of course, subscribes to that as well. So that's what you're telling me. That's what's driving this effort by the federal government to basically take powers that the Constitution reserves for our states. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.
Support journalism you trust. Support PBS News. Donate now, or even better, start a monthly contribution today.